Now, in this example, we're going to solve a programming question. Let us have a look at this problem. So, the question here is, create a test for learners in a class that asks them to name the capital of each state in the country. The test should consist of 8 questions, and each question has 4 possible answers. The questions should be shuffled for each test paper. Therefore, the first question in one test paper can be the third question in the next test paper, so that the learners do not copy from each other. Not only that, but also possible answers should be shuffled so that for a particular question, the possible answers can be A, and on the other test paper for the same question, the correct answer can be B. Create 20 test papers, and each test is in a text file, and store all the tests in one folder on the desktop. So, very important, we need 8 questions. The 8 questions need to be different for each test paper. So for the first test paper, for example, it can have question 1, what is the capital of Northwest Province? And then for the second test paper, the first question could be, what is the capital of Gauteng? So it needs to shuffle the questions and also shuffle the possible answers. And you need to create 20 test papers, and they need to be in text file.
Now, to solve this problem, I've already created a script which I think will solve the problem. Because the script is long, I am not going to retype everything, but I'm simply going to go through the example and try to explain how I tried to solve the problem. So let's go ahead and view the script that I created. I'm simply going to open it. Okay, it's a bit long, but I hope it will be worth it. So let's go through it line by line. So in line 9, I'm just going to include a comment here. Okay, now I'm going to explain what I did here as my solution. So in line 8, I'm importing two modules that I'm going to be using. The OS for changing the directory and creating a folder. Then I'm going to use the random module to shuffle the list of answers. So in line 10, I'm creating a new folder on my desktop and I call it quiz2. In line 13, I'm changing the directory of the script that I'm running to run it inside of this folder. You can clearly see these two directories are the same. Here I'm just initiating a variable, called it p0, and here this is the most important thing. This is my dictionary. Remember, we talked about dictionaries, that in dictionaries we can store keys and values. In this instance, the states will be the keys. We have Limpopo, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Western Cape, so on and so forth. And then the values will be the cities. This is Polokwane, Pretoria. So we have our key value pair. The keys are the states and then the values are the cities. So this is our dictionary and we call it states. So first up in line 22, I'm shuffling the keys. Remember, we said that for each particular question, the questions should be shuffled. So the first question in the first test paper should be different to the first question in the second test paper. So that is why we are shuffling the keys. Next, we come to our first block of code, which is the for loop. This for loop will create 20 test papers. So in line 25, if I type in 5, it will create 5 test papers. If I type in 20, it will create 20 test papers. So this block of code, line 25 up until 92, line 92, it's just simply there to create 20 test papers. So what do we want to include in our test papers? So let's go ahead inside this block of code, inside our for loop. So I've initiated a variable here called p. Now do not be confused. I might as well could have started my range at 1 and I could have cancelled p. I'm simply using this so that its index will start at 0. So you can see I initiated a variable and I called it 0, and when it starts here it's gonna be 0 plus 1. So the first value that p will have will be 1. Next up, we're gonna talk about a new function which I haven't talked about. This function is called a placeholder. So if I type in the percentage character s, it's simply going to hold a place here into my text quiz. So now what this line will do, line 31, will create a new text file, and the file name will be quiz with the placeholder, and it's going to include this. So this is the value that I want to put in my placeholder. So for example, if I type in 5 here, it will create a text file and it will call it quiz5, because here it's the placeholder and here is the value that I want to put in my placeholder. So if I put in p, I'm simply saying that whatever p value is, it should include here in this placeholder. So in line 31, I'm creating a new text file, and you can see that because I put in the second argument as w, meaning that I want to create a new text file. So remember, in order to create a file, we need to put in 2 arguments. The file name, including the extension. This is to say that we want to create a text file. And then here, I'm including the second argument, which is w. If I wanted to read it, I was going to type in r. But since I want to write to it, or I want to create a new file, I'm going to type in w. Now, this is very important. So inside, I'm writing inside my quiz. I've created my quiz, this file here, and then now I want to write inside this text file. In order to do that, remember we said we're gonna be clicking here and we choose write. So it means that we can write inside our text value. So what do we want to write inside our text value? This is the first thing we're going to write in our text value. We're going to include a header. So the first thing that we want to include is to say that our title, this is a test for states. Then we want to skip 2 lines. Then we want the learner to put in their names, name and surname. So these are the first thing that will be included inside our text file. So in line 41, I end that, and in line 42, I close the text file. So I'm done creating this text file. Remember, we can write comments. If you can see in line 35, if I just click on enter, it will continue to do that. So line 36 to line 40, it's simply the string that I want to include inside my text file. Now that I've closed my text file, I come to line 47. Once again, this is just an index for my for loop that I'm going to use in line 56. So in line 48, I open the text file again. Now I'm gonna open, remember when we want to open, if it's already created, remember this directory we're working on is the same directory where we created this text file. So now because it's already created, it's simply going to open this text file that I've already created here. And I'm gonna save it in this variable called quiz just for ease of reference. Once again, I'm opening the text file and I'm putting the placeholder here. And instead of writing W, I'm writing A because I want to append on my text file. On line 31, we wanted to write or create a new text file, but here we want to append, we want to add something more into our text file. So we're gonna put in this second argument as A because we want to append our text file. Now we come to line 53. In line 53, I'm simply shuffling the states. Remember, we put in random.shuffle. It's going to shuffle what is inside here. What is inside here? Shuffle list. If we go to line 22, we defined as shuffle list as the keys. What are the keys of our dictionary? The keys of our dictionary are the states. So in other words, line 53 is simply shuffling the keys of our dictionary, which are the states. Now we come to line 56. In line 56, we're simply creating the questions inside our test paper. So we say for I in shuffle list. Now in shuffle list is the keys inside our dictionary. What are our keys? What are our keys? Are our states. So it means that shuffle list is the number of states that are there. So for I in shuffle list means that we are shuffling the list of states. So if we had 10 states, it was going to create 10 questions. If we had 15 states, it was going to create 15 questions. So now we're going to go to our third block of code in line 57. So this block of code is inside this for loop. So if we come to line 58, it simply matches the correct capital with the states. So if we say states I, let's go to states. It's simply going to index the correct city. Remember, states is a dictionary. So if we type in correct capital equals to, correct capital is simply a variable. So states I, here it means that we are putting the key, and if we put in the key, it's going to return a city. So here it simply matches the states with the city. Here we are simply calling the list of values. What are the list of values? The list of values in our dictionary are the cities or the capital city of the respective states. So here I'm simply calling all the values inside my dictionary, which are the cities. So this line of code is simply calling the list of the cities. So double L is simply a list of all the possible cities. In line 63, I'm shuffling all the cities inside my dictionary. In line 67, I'm simply defining a new list, and this new list contains all possible answers. And it will be 4 because we are using 4 indexes. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. If we come to line 71, in one of the lists, in all the possible answers, we want to make sure that the correct capital is included. So we're checking if the correct capital is inside this list. If it's not in, that we don't want to include it. So in line 72, we're simply making sure that the first value here, the first value inside our new list of possible answers or possible cities, it is the correct capital. But remember, we said that we also want to shuffle the possible answers. So when we come to line 76, we are shuffling it again. We are shuffling this list of possible answers. Here we are specifying it that it should be on the first location, and in line 76 we are shuffling it so it could be on the second, third, or the first or the fourth location. So here I'm simply adding on to my index. Now here I'm including the string that I want to put inside my questions. Remember, here we just simply created the questions. We didn't type anything inside our new appended text file. So here we said we want to append this text file called quiz, but we haven't said what we want to append. So in line 82, I'm defining the string that I want to append inside my text file quiz. So this is the string that I want to append inside my text file. Here I have the placeholder, and here I'm going to include the counter. I'm going to include the counter on my index. It's simply going to start at 1 and continue until the for loop ends. So count is going to start at 0. It's 0, and when it starts I, it's going to add 1. It's going to add 1. So count is 1. So here it's going to write question 1. So CNT, which stands for count, is 1 here in this instance. So it's going to write question 1, and then when the for loop runs the second time, count will add 1 and this will become 2. So this is the question that I need to type in all my questions. So question 1, question 2, they will all look the same and they will all have the same format. If you can see line 84 and line 87, here I'm indexing the values inside my list. Remember, this list here contains all the possible answers. In line 90, I'm simply writing this string. Remember, our string value is this one. I defined it here, and then here I'm simply putting it inside my text file. So in order to do that, we need to use the write command, just like we did here when we wanted to include this string. But instead of writing the string inside here, I defined a variable and I called it Gugu, and then this variable I'm including it here. So Gugu is simply a string value. It is this string value here. Now I'm closing my text file, and then after doing this, I simply want to print done Nick to indicate that my code has finished running. So let's go ahead and run the script. Okay, it's indicated that it's done, so let's go and check it. If we come here, we see it's created a new file. If we come to our code, our new folder, we wanted it to be quiz2, so it created it. So if we open our folder, we see it created 20 text files. Let's open the first one. We can see it included our header here. This is a test for states, name, surname, and then the first question, what is the capital of Free State Province? And then here it shuffled all the possible answers, and if you scroll down, it created 8 different types of questions. Now I want you to look at this very closely. This is the first test paper. If we go to the second test paper, we can clearly see that it has the same questions. If we come here, the first question is what is the capital of Free State, but on our second test paper it's what is the capital of Northwest Province. And if we look at this same question, what is the capital of Free State Province, we come here, we scroll down, let's look at that question. We see the list of possible answers starts with Pretoria, Polokwane, Durban and Bloemfontein. But here it starts with Polokwane, Mahikeng, Bloemfontein and Durban. So you can see it also shuffled the possible answers here, and it also shuffled the possible answers here. It didn't start at Pretoria, so the possible answer is not Pretoria, and the possible answer is not Pretoria here. But we can clearly see that this answer here, this is the correct answer, it's also included here. So this is how we solve the problem inside of Python. I hope you can see the power that Python has by sending instructions to a computer for it to execute. If you were to use Microsoft Word, you would have had to type 20 different types of test papers. But by using Python, we have reduced this work to a simple 4 lines of code of the questions which continuously repeat itself.